Kevin Harvick, he'll lead the field to green tomorrow night for the 6th annual Quaker State 400 presented by Advance Auto Parts here at Kentucky Speedway. And Kevin is our number one in owner's points. He drives the number 4 Busch Light Chevrolet for Stewart Haas Racing. And Kevin, we're kind of at the midpoint of the season. We've had some really good racing so far. You've had good success. Just talk about your outlook here at Kentucky Speedway this weekend, and then also maybe looking ahead as things start to really intensify before we set the chase field.
Well, I think this weekend is a little bit of an unknown. We spent 2 days here testing, and obviously we had to make some adjustments. Goodyear had to make some adjustments to the tires coming back to make them live. And I think as we've gone through practice, we haven't had any tire issues so far. But it changed a lot with the feel of the car and the things that you want in the car. So we've scrambled a little bit. I felt like we were better the second time out on the racetrack. I think hopefully being able to get some more practice will be beneficial, because we still don't really have a good idea of exactly where we need to be as far as balance and what's going to happen the longer you run the car. So as far as the season, I feel like for us, we've overcome a lot. I feel like we've adjusted and adapted to making pit road better over the last couple weeks. We've had a lot of issues and things that have cropped up that we've been able to cover up with good finishes that we've kept building on. But I feel good about the performance of the race cars. I think they're performing well and allowing us to overcome those things with just speed and performance. I feel like we're cleaning a lot of things up as we go from week to week, and hopefully, we're ready as we get into the chase and have all those things, everything hitting on all cylinders. So I feel good about the performance and good about the progress that we've made with adjusting and adapting, and the things that we've been able to achieve have been okay, and hopefully we can keep making them better.
Questions for Kevin. We'll start here with Fred, and then we'll go to Tim. Fred and then Tim.
Hi, Kevin. I'm Fred Calgill with WLKY TV in Louisville. Some thoughts in general about the repave, and more specifically in a situation like this with the rain, knowing now in a best-case scenario you're out there in an hour versus before it was 3 hours or maybe even not at all.
Yeah, it definitely puts us in a little bit different box of we've been sitting up there for a couple hours just trying to figure out, the 4 or 5 things that you want to try. And then what happens after that, you put the pieces together and you make your best educated guess upon the things that you've tried, pace that you think the cars are going to run, and go from there. So, it's really not about how fast you run at this particular point. It's how much you can try and how many pieces of the puzzle you can insert into the equation of trying to come up with the solution when you get done with practice. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure that, we'll still get back out on the track, the way the storms keep popping up. So, you hope that you can get out there. I think those are, if we can get that hour of practice at that particular time, that's going to be the most realistic thing that we've had or have going forward, just because of the time and the conditions and things that we'll be dealing with tomorrow night. So that'll be very beneficial if we can get out there, and very important, I think, for everybody to try to understand exactly what we're dealing with.
Tim?
Tim Sullivan, Courier-Journal. When you go to a new track or a track that's been repaved and you say there's a little bit of an unknown, do you find yourself experimenting or more cautious? What's the mindset?
Well, I think you're definitely cautious just because you don't know where the limits are, and every time you go out, you push or move or see something that you hadn't done before, and you start gathering that notebook in your mind of how far you can push things, how far you can hang the car out, and how loose the balance can be or how tight it needs to be. So every time out, you're just, you're gathering more information for yourself to gain that confidence, because the hard part about repaves is, a lot of places you can go and be over-aggressive and, slide up out of the groove. You're over-aggressive here and you see what happens. You wind up knocking the side off the car into the fence. But I think that the thing that, I think deserves a lot of credit is for NASCAR and the folks here at Kentucky Speedway is, you watched that race last night, and there was 2 grooves right off the bat for a new repave. That's pretty remarkable. And I think there was a lot of effort and a lot of collaboration between everybody, and I'm just proud that we were able to come to a racetrack. It's still very edgy. New paves will always be, but when you have racing that is capable of racing side by side, I mean, that's a really good sign. So I'm pretty happy about that. It's just a balance. Really, I don't think you're going to go through this weekend ever being 100% confident.
Let's go front row, and then we'll go to Jerry.
Zach Tanzwedi, front stretch. Your son Keelan's now 4 years old. So 4 years, 4 years ago versus today. How much has your racing life changed in your personal life, and how? It's a big effect on anybody, but for you, in such a big spotlight, how has that changed your entire life?
It's changed my life a lot. I think just in how you think about and approach things, and just being able to share my job with him, even though I don't believe I've been home for on his actual birthday, any of the 4 years. It's still, I'm pretty fortunate to be able to take him and let him be a part of what I do for a living, and spend more time with him personally, and he can be around what I do. And it's not normal that you get to take your son to work, in most places that you work. So we're very fortunate to be able to do that and have them around more than, I think I'm around them more than most people that have a 9-to-5 job. So it's been a lot of fun, and definitely changed the direction of Delaney and I's life, and how we approach things, and how you think about things, and the things that you do. So it's been a game changer for us.
We'll go to Jerry, and then Jeff.
Jerry Jordan, Performance Racing Network, Kicking the Tires. Kevin, obviously with what happened yesterday in Dallas, and last week we saw increase in security at Daytona. Do you think about security when you're at the track and bringing your family here with all of us here every week? Does that ever cross your mind, and how do you handle that type of situation?
Well, I think, with the current state of where things have happened, and I think as NASCAR and ISC, we've talked about security is the number one thing that we've talked about over the past month. So I think it's important to make sure that we're ahead of it, and trying to make sure that we do what we need to do, and not take for granted the environment that we're in. We just have to make sure that we're proactive in doing the things that we need to do, and I think everybody seems to be doing that, but it's definitely at the forefront of everybody's mind.
Let's go back to Jeff Gluck, and then we'll go to David Scott, and then Tucker.
From USA Today. Obviously, this has been a tough week news-wise in this country. There's a lot of things that are hard to watch going on. NASCAR obviously is entertainment, and even though you're here to be a competitor, you're also providing a distraction for people for a few hours. Do you think about that role at all in times like this, and how you guys are ultimately, if you put on a good show, you're giving people sort of a break from everything that's going on?
Well, you're definitely in a role to try to make people happy. It's not uncommon to see, pictures from mothers, fathers, grandparents, kids of their sisters, brothers, husbands, whatever the situation is, in the casket in your race gear. So, at that particular point, it's fairly obvious that you need to try to do the best you can to not take for granted what we do, and realize exactly how much it means to a lot of people. This is definitely a distraction for a lot of people to get their minds off of things that have been affected or not affected, or worried about something, and it's definitely something that we can play a big role in being positive impacts on a lot of people's lives. And you get it's a daily reminder of a situation, or somebody has cancer or just died, or people in the situation that we just had in Dallas, with everybody worried and frightened about the things that are going on in their city, and all of a sudden for 4 hours you have something that can get their people their minds off of things, or something that you post on Twitter that whether it's a picture of something that we did, or something of Keelan that makes somebody smile. We have the opportunity to have big impacts on people's lives, and every day you learn more and more about how much of an impact you have, and sometimes you can get so buried into what you're doing, but we're so fortunate to be sitting here doing what we're doing in this environment, and then you see all the real world things that are happening around you, and sometimes it's easy to forget, that you're pretty lucky to be sitting in the position that you're in. So yeah, you think about it a lot.
Let's go to David, and then we'll go to Tucker, and then back row.
Charlotte Observer. Kevin, we got 2 rookies this year who might well make the chase. What have you seen in those 2 guys, Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney, and just the depth of the class also with Scott and Buescher also?
Yeah, I think those 2 have definitely shown, great competitiveness. They've been very successful in the divisions that they've won in and run in before, which is what sets them apart from most of the other people that move up. There's not a lot of them that have won a lot of races and championships. There's very few of those people that move up into this division. So, I think Austin Dillon was probably the last one to do that, and the talent's there, but it's hard to win in Cup, and I think Kyle Larson's going to be a star in our sport, and he just has to break over that hump of not having won before, and that's really what happens when you come in. You see those younger guys do really good, and then the pressure keeps building. The more you don't win, the pressure just keeps building on when are you going to win? Why haven't you won? You build all this hype around the young guys, and then they don't win, and it almost shuts them down at the end of the first year and into the second year. So those guys have a lot of capability, but the further that we go into the year, the more they'll be judged by not having won than they will off of how bright their future actually is. But they're gonna be stars.
Let's go to Tucker, and then we'll go to back row.
Tucker White, SpeedwayMedia.com. Kevin, the 2 races we've had this year with the lower downforce package have been tracks with more smoother surface. Now,
We've only had one.
Well, not the point. That's beside the point. But anyway, in order to get in the interest of getting a quote-unquote representative sample, would it be in the best interest of the drivers or NASCAR to add one more race with the lower downforce package at a track with a more abrasive surface like, say, Darlington?
I don't think so. I think the abrasive surfaces are going to put on good races no matter how big the spoiler is. That's just bottom line. The cars are they already slide around. So take the spoiler off of it, they're going to slide around more, and you're still going to have the same fall off. So, I think a lot of it is intended to, especially for this particular race with a new surface, I think to have the low downforce on it accomplished exactly what everybody wanted to accomplish as far as corner speeds at Michigan and the throttle off time. Obviously I think there's some big adjustments that we can still make as far as aero balance and tires and getting the car balanced right. But Atlanta and Darlington, those types of racetracks, they're always going to have good races, no matter how big the spoiler is. We've had, I don't even remember how big the first spoiler was. I think it was 7 or 8 inches tall in 2014. Cars felt pretty much just like they did this year with however tall this spoiler is, 3.5 inches. So those races are always going to be good.
Let's go back row. Go ahead.
Ken Spencer, WHAS 11. Kevin, this place always kind of hung its hat on being the roughest track on the circuit, the bumps, the bumps, the bumps. How much different is it without all those bumps? How much different does it feel in the car?
It feels great, to tell you the truth. My neck doesn't hurt and it doesn't pound your heels and your neck to the point where you can't hardly walk for 2 days. So, I think that everybody loves the character in the racetrack, but when you see them dry, this particular racetrack, now that the drainage is fixed and all the things that were actually wrong, I don't think anybody minds bumps and character in the racetrack. It's just, when we sat here for hours last year with water running out of the racetrack, that was just I think the final straw that broke the camel's back, that you had to go out and fix it and make it right. So I like the thought process. I really enjoyed watching the truck race last night because of the fact that turn 3 is obviously the really hard corner, and you can get off the corner, but the trucks that would lose space, they would draft up, and they could hold it pretty much wide open through 1 and 2, and they'd draft back, and this end of the corner, the entry speed is so much slower than somewhere like a Kansas or somewhere else that has a asphalt like this. But they would build that speed back up through the corner and charge down into turn 3, and it was really hard to it's hard to make that corner the same every time because our cars are very loose into there, and some of those trucks looked a little bit tight on the exit last night because they could carry more speed. But I think it made it interesting compared to what we had before. We had two somewhat similar ends, but turn three's such a hard corner, and now that you're flying off in there so much faster, it's definitely much different. So I enjoyed the race last night and thought that was a new characteristic that we hadn't seen before here.
Let's go back to Tim.
Feet. How common is that experience that you had here in other tracks?
This one was probably by far the worst. You have different problems at different tracks, but these were jarring. It was because of the fact that they were down the straightaway and the car would actually almost come off the ground in certain spots and bounce around, and it was just jarring type hits that were almost jumps.
Any other questions? We'll go to Mark Garrow, finish up here.
Kevin, can you talk a little, Mark Garrow, PRN, can you talk a little bit about next week's race at New Hampshire and just the characteristics of that racetrack? They talk about it being Martinsville on steroids and that kind of thing. Just how do you attack that place?
Well, I think the interesting part is seeing what the difference is in the tires. It sounds like they're coming back with a softer tire that should have hopefully more tire wear. That makes the cars have more fall off. So it sounded like that was the direction that we're going for next week. I like going to Loudon. I think it's a very challenging racetrack. I like the flat tracks. We should have won the last race by a long ways up there, and just had a faulty fuel filler and missed it with 3 laps to go there. So it's always been a very good racetrack for us, and looking forward to going back. I love going to that part of the country this time of year when it's hot everywhere else, and it can be hot up there, but 85 is usually everybody feels like they're about to melt up there, and it's just a nice part of the country to go to this time of year and be able to race. So a lot of race fans up there, and just one of my favorite stops every year.
Kevin, thank you very much. Good luck this weekend at Kentucky Speedway.